Oh god! Oh god!
I am CouchCoop, and there's a couple of reasons why I've done this video. One of them mainly is I haven't gone near this game since around 2017 when it was launched out on the PlayStation 4 base level machine. This review is going to be in a flat 2K and it is a pegged 30, so we get an actual peg frame rate with the PlayStation 5 against the PlayStation 4 Pro edition, which does give us that 2K, but we don't have that fixed frame rate. So when I stepped into this world for the first time in a number of years, I was extremely taken aback by its visuals, the way it ran, and the game model. This is very important. It's a extremely different world to 2016. The last time I spoke about this game was on a top single player list, and look at the numbers on it. 700k. That's the stuff of dreams for me now. By the way, we're looking at some Halloween mods in the background there. Might be worth a look if you haven't checked in recently. It's also a very different world for Todd Howard and co. Since the release of Fallout 4, we've only seen Bethesda sort of lose reputation with us, particularly with Fallout 76, and that constantly being peddled out as an online service. I hopped in there before putting the Fallout 4 disc in to just treble check that there's nothing I haven't missed on recent updates. My God, you're going to find out how awful that game is throughout this video.
Oh my god.
We need to get to the vault now.
Small things started to jump out at me. Mr. Gutsy's reflection in that lounge scene, first of all, was way too in-depth for what that game looked like back in 2017. And the vibrancy on the HDR implementation is pretty mind-blowing as well. It looks very rich and everything has this beautiful, smooth, unteared look to it. It was such a crazy performing game on that base level PlayStation 4 that I had to just stop here and have a really good look at this drama and just soak it up. We're dealing with far higher resolution than we had on the PlayStation. This 5 and this PEG 30 and this 2K, I was like, hold on a minute, I think I'm gonna have a friggin' whale of a time on this replay. I felt it was important to go from the start again. Bethesda used to have this incredible front end to all of their games, and I think Fallout 4 firmly falls into that bracket. The intro, the introduction to the tutorial and how that's panned out to you by being in the vault at the start and scuttling in from your actual domestic situation and then returning to that, which we'll get to in a second, has an impact even on second playthrough. I do love this section, however, though. The designers are like, I know what we need. We need cockroaches and we need fists. That's really not the best way to introduce one of the finest games of its generation. I think that rat roach thing is a bit of a tradition. We had it in Fallout 3 where you're punching them and scuttling around corridors, and it introduced the Vats to you, and you had like a BB gun as well, like a kid's potato gun. It was awesome. Something else really strange happened as well during this playthrough. My TV did that thing where it says, "Are you still alive?" because I went 4 or 5 hours with just transfixed, especially with this intro, looking for everything that I've missed, playing all these cool holotapes and just thoroughly feeling out one of the best front end to a AAA video game I think we're going to see in a long time. That's another reason for the video, is that I feel I owe Fallout 4 an apology and that I've been neglecting the poor thing for the last 5 years on the channel. It's really now positioned itself as one of the strongest 9th generation games available. Thinking whilst watching this footage last night, imagine catching your finger in that as it flips round, or cutting your wrist on it before you've even put it on. You'd be like, I need medical attention, minus 12 damage, and they'd be like, how did you do that? Just putting the damn thing on. They were available as physical, I remember, on a limited edition, and that mask came out which ended up being a poisoned container that people were putting on their heads. That was one of the starts of Bethesda's step down the old crazy mind. This section here, spectacular. Love the lights, I love the mist, there's tiny bits of smoke, all kinds of drama going on here, and it slowly reveals that it's opening to you. It's a brilliant build-up. We had it in Fallout 3 with sort of the door rolling to the side. You can tell you've been living in Dubai, because I expected those yellow gates to open up as well. Didn't think I'd have to actually physically walk through them. It does kind of blue ball you a little bit though, having you walk to this big bright light only to be greeted with another lift and some iron railings. Bit of an anticlimax, but I like the idea of a second chance to change what you look like or choose your tropes and perks again. That's really cool, and then it's the big reveal. I can remember this scene like it was yesterday from 2016. When I first popped out back then on my base level PlayStation, I did a pan out of just pure curiosity. Kubrick Coop was in his early years back then, and I wasn't really interested too much in smooth camera controls or stuttery issues with frame rates. But I remember distinctly it screen tearing, like the horizon being like a sandwich and it just ticking like a clock round. It was not smooth. It isn't 60 frames per second, but good God, we've seen an improvement there. This, as a gaming geek who's into visuals, kind of took my breath away. And then I got down to the river, and I'm just like, hold on a minute. God Rays, Todd Howard, 76, 16 times better. This is loads better looking than Fallout 76, if not on a direct par. Shame on you, Tom Howard, for coming out in your brown leather jacket and telling us all that Fallout 76 was a new engine, 16 times better, when all you really did was probably just bugger around with a bit of the bark on the trees. And that's why this is such a freaking revelation. I haven't gone back to Fallout 4 since 76's release. I was just all over it. That's obviously the new Fallout game, and it would be my go-to for my Fallout fix. But in hindsight, what a nightmare that game is.
As I live and breathe. Oh, it's really you.
Mr. Gutsy's complete devastation about your family and your house when you go back after being cryogenically frozen for all those years still has an impact on me. In actual fact, he gets really offended if you don't instigate the quest and just walk right past him. And you also can go right up to the mobile. It's a real heart panger and very cool for a revenge angle. Just on the subject of angles, I want to talk about my capture and how I got some of those camera positions. I had a bit of a meltdown because I clean forgot how to do a walk towards camera on third person view. To go to third person view, it is the big button on the PlayStation, and then to adjust the distance between that, you hold it down and use the other stick so you can have it right up close behind you. You can play this game like a third person shooter. We're going to get to some of those mechanics in a second, because after these updates and these changes in this PEG 30, the combat actually works.
Yeah, Brett. Once this whole thing blows over.
Back to the camera thing, and if your weapon is drawn and you're in third person, it will not allow the camera to swing around 360 degrees. That took me about 3 hours to figure out, and it's just a lot easier if you want to get these cool walk towards camera shots. Your weapon needs to be holstered, and then you get to be able to go all the way around and enjoy some really cool aspects. I love the mist. The game has got some amazing weather, even extreme radioactive weather that I clean forgot about. I didn't know the rain was that visceral, and also the draw distance with mist and in-game furniture, particularly with the organic trees. This was amazing. I'm like, my God, I can't believe I'm looking at a game that is coming up to 8 years old. 7 years old, I've just done the maths. Now, the rays coming through a lot of these windows on the corpses against that mist. This is a section of the game where you're getting introduced to the mutants, really. You're sort of finding heavy evidence of their existence in the form of massive bags of bones and guts and blood. That's something we're going to get to, how gory this game was. And Fallout 3, I remember having a sort of ultra gore perk as an option, but with this, it's no holds barred, complete macabre massacre. I do just want to touch on locations quickly. It's not till you're away from a game for a lengthy piece of time and then return and realize how much of an impact some of these really cool set pieces had on you. I instantly remember them all. The broken down apocalyptic landscape that Fallout 4 gives us, I think, is some of the best on the market. The detail in the destruction and the differences in what occupy these horrible structures is just limitless. I think this brings me on to an interesting point about becoming the monster. What I mean by that is to beat these ridiculous crazy creatures and raiders and criminals, you have to actually become one yourself. You end up dressing like them, behaving like them, and just turning into the most ruthless Mad Max / Nightbreed homage to be able just to get through things. It's really funny how quickly you just debaucherize into this massive killer, because that is what the world demands of you. And getting to wear the attire of the people that are attacking you and slowly becoming bigger and more frightening than they are is half the fun, I think, of Fallout 4. The structure of this game, especially the front end, does a brilliant job in introducing you to what you could accomplish by giving you a huge bit of battle armor, early doors to play around with, and a melee gun, some tough enemies. This Vats kill. Imagine the new Saints Row game having something like that in it. This is off the hook game design. It's completely crazy, and the Deathclaw coming out of that manhole, the first time for me it made me shit myself. The second time I was ready and I still got damn frightened. These loading screens are so apt, they're so cool, showing you what weapons you could potentially make. This is a Deathclaw melee glove that you would put together from harvesting the hands of them and then just baler twining it all together with a bit of bungee rope and a bracelet. Bob's your uncle. Let's talk about Vats and combat and how glorious it is to have that Vats real time removed and the game stopping so you can make an actual decision on a pause system. The 76 version is just like auto aim, where you can pump a clip into something, doesn't matter where it really is on screen technically. It feels very soulless, very distant. This is so awesome, because you do have to use your resources. You have to make sure you're aiming for correct parts and seeing the animations when you pull off something like a top stuff. I recently put a video out about New Vegas, which is the game that came before this, and still the AI looks incredible on its wounding animations and how differently they behave when they're under pressure. If I have to make one point massively clear on this whole video, it's not the amazing 2K and HDR implementation, it's this pegged 30 frames per second that really support the combat and just moving around in general. And you might think, I've got games that are 60 frames per second and they still are a bit weird looking, but they may not be pegged. This is the thing, if it's locked, the eyeball just kind of accepts it. If it keeps juddering around and lowering below 20 and 25, your brain will get annoyed with it. But if it's smooth AF the whole damn time, a pegged 30 frames per second is totally bearable, as long as it is what it says on the tin. Back to what we're looking at, and this game has an incredible companion system, and you might be wondering why the hell I've left that dog on. Well, it's for nostalgia. I do love it. It does photobomb a lot, but the behaviors on it, it very rarely annoys you. It's really cool on attack, but the emphasis is on getting new companions on board with you. Different races and types of, you can even have a mutant, super mutant on your side, and you can dress them and stash stuff on them. It's pretty cool. But these magazines, some of them go toward getting extra buffs on your companions, and putting them all in their shelf back at the settlement is such a pride thing for me. I have also had the radio off for the entire playthrough of most of this front end of the game. I had Classic on for a bit. I was a bit concerned about the capture and copyright, but there is Fallout's own backing track, which is like small orchestral maneuvers in the dark with inclinations here and there, a little bit like Breath of the Wild when you go to like a cool spooky place, and it really works a lot better than getting distracted by 60-minute men. So this is what I call like panicked combat, where it's just gone wrong and you're getting chased down. When you were playing the original base level systems, it was running at about 15 to 20 frames per second. It would ruin it. The same with Fallout 3. It couldn't cope with real-time combat when it was busy and when you shot your gun. Now, completely different story. I did want to cover the wet look and lightning mechanics and the storms that come in. This is the natural storms. You have radioactive ones that I'll show in a second. But again, I just forgot how fresh that wheel is of weather rotation. When you play a game like Cyberpunk 2077, it rains like once every 70 hours for a minute. This section here perfectly showcases how amazing the AI is when they're trying to avoid attacks, or how they behave differently when they've taken bullets or damage. The feral ghouls, I don't remember, charge at you at 90 miles an hour at the 11th hour on their attack, which throws you every time. They always get to you. It's almost a VAT only situation to try and take these things down. Incredible tension. I love the way they left and right to avoid my line of sight, and even cover their faces, roll around on the ground. Excellent gameplay. I want to talk about the game's nighttime and how it uses light around raider camps and in the city, especially Diamond City as well. It's very cool to have light indicate where there's activity, and also how infested a lot of the buildings are in the towns surrounding these big structures. Fallout 4 totally sells you the idea that you are against everything that's out there, and these raider camps and how embedded they are, their different defensive towers and locked doors and secret areas. It just boggles the mind how much went into laying that all down, so that when you discover it all for yourself, it feels totally random and cool. The HDR on these captures is a little bit washed out. Back to the lighting thing, these captures don't do the game's HDR investment justice, and its rotation of day and night against the different weather effects makes the whole Wasteland feel so believable and lived in and real, and few games achieve that high accolade. This is a great scene. Bethesda, I think, down to a T. There's a bird that comes in that perfectly perches on the front of that derelict train. The design of that train is epic. And another bird comes in and blatantly clips right through it. I think that's one of the lovable Bethesda traits. Rat scorpions, early doors, got loads of them. Because I'm wandering out of a lot of the early game area, why doesn't it attack my dog? Death does come harsh in Fallout. You need to remember to do the quick save. You will rage. I raged, rather. Now this clip is incredible. Raider AI is so random that sometimes it produces brilliant results. Backed out into me on that door. I'm so nearly dead. This shot has got to kill him, but it doesn't, and we're both stuck on the reload. I pop my head around the corner. Stuff like that makes you think this game is amazing, and if it keeps up with outlandish behaviour like that, I'm going to be just 100 hours in and not even scratching the surface, which is what's going to happen on this second playthrough. That brings me over to the DLC, and the two of which I'm most interested in are that Far Harbor and the Nuka-Cola world. I love the idea of that theme park, exploring all the cool colours and rides, and I want some feedback from you guys. Is it worth me looking at them? Am I aiming in the right place? As someone who really craves more Fallout 4 content, I feel very lucky to have all of that new stuff to get my teeth into. What's with the blue sky staring? I think I left this in, it might be for the intro, but that's a deep, deep, deep blue on my TV, and should be on yours, but it isn't on the capture because of HDR. Running and gunning. Now, you couldn't do this when it was released in its first year. You couldn't even see those trees in the distance to be aiming at them, and flicking that L2 on and off would stutter the frame rates. It would stutter you. Like pulling the trigger sometimes would have such a delay on the input that your gun wouldn't go off for like a second afterwards. It feels perfectly normal as a AAA over-the-shoulder shooter now. I'm so happy with how the guns go off really quickly, the bullets come out of them at the right time, and there's no screen tearing whatsoever. I also don't know if I forgot or in my previous first playthrough I never came across these, but yeah, we do have kamikaze mole rats. Let's talk about that world building. Let's talk about those non-player characters and some of the really awesome areas you find yourself in, with like communities who do their own thing, have their own message, might even have their own unique structures. It's everywhere when you look around the Wasteland, and joining different factions, siding with different teams and exhausting those resources, switching over. It's really crazy how many different directions you can actually take that single player campaign in. It's a bit of a zigzag because you can't do both in front end, so it's interesting. You have to make decisions, spend your time with who you want to explore on a character development front. And we got George Clooney.
Very well. I'm Paladin Dance.
This mission, I call it the iRobot mission. Good lord. I mean, it does shove you a bit deep end, doesn't it? But just stealing all of their guns and all of their tech and then firing it all back at them once you get halfway through the mission, and following him around, his huge clunky suit going through the corridors, and the lighting and floodlights on the front of the power armor just looks so damn cool. You've kind of felt safe with this NPC with you, but at the same time this was quite difficult, and it's the first time the game just says have 9 to 10 enemies at once. I had more fun in this mission than I did the entire time or any content that I've played with Fallout 76. None of it was memorable. As soon as that mission started, I was like, holy shit, we're in for a right roller coaster here. This replay is going to take me one hell of a long time, but one thing I'm sure of in the opening 15 to 20 hours I've put in over the weekend is that I can't drag myself away from it. I'm completely addicted to developing my character and finding out what else I missed in my original playthrough. And of course seeing the game through these amazing optics at a beautiful PEG 30 frames per second and a full 2K. It just feels wonderful to be able to explore this true classic with a nice new lick of paint on your PlayStation 5. Even fire and explosion effects, which I was dreading, that's where games can really show their age. It's particularly with pyro effects and with large big explosions. I remember the ones on Fallout 3 when the cars blew up, looking really grubby and weird, and the smoke being like too dark, everything looking very unnatural. Totally spectacular. I love the explosions and the electric explosions as well from some of your grenades. This is another great scene because I know exactly where this camp is. I've just gone round the back and gone up to the top and just proceed and drop grenades in, watching the corpses fly. I think there's quite a large group of people who got this on week 1 because they were huge Fallout fans, got completely satisfied with it, did that campaign, put it back on the shelf, maybe saw a few updates come past, maybe even tried one of the mods. But I had no idea how dramatic the 2K and PEG 30 would look on my PlayStation 5. And I also clean forgot how incredible the campaign is. Bumped into my doppelganger here, obviously take care of business. But back to my point, this game was made with the planets aligning, and no pun intended, but we do have Starfield coming up. Now, strangely, I was on the Starfield Twitter the other day, and the description for it is this is the first new IP from Bethesda in over 25 years. And I just thought, my God, that's correct, it is. And are they going to be anywhere near what they came up with for this game? because holy hell, when you replay it after all that time against what's out today, it's such a big game with such huge ideas, and it succeeds in all of them. It has drawn me in for a second time, and that doesn't happen with single player video games. You might be in the unbelievably good position of only have played Fallout 76 free when they put it out the other year for no cost whatsoever, and your only experience with a decent Bethesda game has been that awful online only piece of crap. You have got one of the best games ever made here, completely available for a knockdown price, and hand on heart, I really think it could be the best Fallout ever made. I know New Vegas is really strong, and I was a big fan. I even reviewed it a couple of months back, and it refreshed my love for it. But with this new stuff on that PlayStation 5 and having all of those pluses pointing in the right direction, it's a complete no-brainer and should sit proudly on everybody's gaming shelf as a go-to must-play. I doubt this video will get 700,000 views, but if it gets even 7,000 views, I will be a very happy bunny. And of course, I will see you all down there.